What's the worst business idea you've seen someone try to execute? There was a guy in my town that opened a business that was the equivalent of a brick-and-mortar version of Craigslist or newspaper classified ads. It was a unit in a strip mall with bulletin boards. You paid to put an ad up, and other people came to look at the ads with a small picture. This was after Craigslist existed, not some pre-internet thing. There was no actual merchandise in the store, just crappy pictures of stuff with the contact info. It wasn't even a high foot traffic location. You had to maneuver through a busy intersection, park, and go inside to look at the bulletin board. It went under, and he tried to blame the landlord because he couldn't get a sign permit for the end of the building, even though he had 2 other signs. Yeah, I mean, there's some ideas that, they might sound cool at first, but then once you actually think about it, you realize pretty quickly that it's just a terrible idea. My father-in-law drove 18 hours down to Florida to catch shrimp, filled his tiny car with tons of shrimp, and drove back. It took days to vacuum seal the shrimp that hadn't gone bad, only to sell a few bags to some friends. The car smelled like seafood for years. See, whenever there's some big craze where you think oh man, there is so much money in something, if there really was a ton of money and it was easy to do, people would already be all over it. So if you have to travel, then you're already at a major disadvantage. There's no way you can make up for it. When I was in high school, one of my friends wanted to start a little coffee and hot chocolate shop with a cuddle corner and free hugs for anyone who wants them. She offered jobs to our other friends. The idea was that the little business would be operated and staffed by high schoolers. She failed to see the issue with having 16-year-old girls required give free hugs to customers, or having to staff the cuddle corner. Yeah, there's some people out there who would be pretty happy to find a business like that, but not people that you would be happy to see walk in. I can't believe no one mentioned that guy who went on Shark Tank to pitch Bluetooth earpiece that you got surgically implanted in your ear canal, that you charged by sticking a needle in your ear while you slept. Yeah, I actually have seen that one. I think it was on the very first Shark Tank episode. I don't really watch the show that much, I mostly just see the worst of the worst, and that one's pretty up there. Monthly sex toy subscription. You would get a different sex toy each month, which is an okay idea, I guess. There's one of those for everything nowadays, but the only problem this guy had is that he wanted the customer to eventually return the toy so he could pass it on to the next customer. He actually got in talks with an owner of a local sex shop to help him start, but the enthusiasm flattened out quite quickly. You know, there are some things that can be recycled, and other things that just don't. In about 2005, my friend's dad tried to start an arcade in a small town, just outside walking distance from a school, using beat-up second-hand machines. To get there from school, you'd have to walk by an established, larger arcade that also sold food. You know, there's a lot you have to consider when starting a business, one of those being, how much demand is there compared to how much competition you're going to have? A guy I know got a small inheritance, enough for a deposit on a unit or small house. Nope, seahorse farm. Turns out seahorses are difficult to breed. And then what do you even do with them? Just sell them as pets? So I live in Las Vegas. When I was in my 20s, I was hired by a man who wanted to build a MySpace for strippers. His goal was for men on the site to pay him to follow their favorite strippers and know what clubs they were dancing at and when. He shut the project down, after months of paying me, when he found out that no stripper would sign up for it. So it just sounds like a prehistoric version of OnlyFans. One of the younger dudes in my karate class was going to start a handyman business. 24-hour, anything needed to be done, anywhere in our district. Sounds good. You're gonna get a loan and buy a used truck and get some tools, and you never have talk time on your phone, so will you get a landline? No, I'll go on my bicycle, and I'll just use the tools they have, and they can email me when they need service. Right, because when I have water spraying out of my geyser through the ceiling at 3 a.m., I'm gonna email a dude on a bicycle to come fix it using all the tools and the ladder I don't own. You know, I think it's pretty typical for young people to have some idea that they think is revolutionary, but when they actually try and apply it, they have to fail a few times to realize that they aren't as smart as they first thought. The crazy expensive juicer from several years ago that used proprietary juice packets. You could just poke a hole in the packet and hand squeeze the juice for free to save a few $100s. Yeah, I heard about that fad. It sounds like such a scam. It's just like, alright, you gotta buy these expensive bags full of juice. And if you want to get the juice out of them, you gotta get this $400 machine that you put the bag on it and it squeezes the juice out of the bag. Yeah, okay, or you could just go to the store and buy some juice for a few dollars. Dude bought 150,000 fidget spinners at the height of the craze. It took months to ship out from China, and by the time all of his stuff arrived, the mania had ended and the retail price was already near his original wholesale price. The friggin' guy still has fidget spinners today. I guess he may eventually do okay on it, but man. You know, I can proudly say that even today in 2021, I have never even touched a fidget spinner. One time many years ago, my friend and I were in line behind a woman who had a shirt emblazoned with the word taint. He inquired about it, and it turns out it was her clothing company. She explained that she loved the word taint. Like, taint this, taint that. He explained the popular meaning of the word to her, and her face dropped. I was mortified, but he probably did the right thing. Well, that probably tainted her view on that business. I have a friend whose family has gotten involved in multiple pyramid schemes, and every single time they get into a new pyramid scheme, they claim it's not a pyramid scheme. No, you don't get it. I am the boss. Once I produce 5 clients for my mentor, then I keep all my new clients, and they have to get me 5 new clients each. It's people helping people. See, the weird thing to me about pyramid schemes is that it almost seems like there's never an actual real good product that anybody wants out of it. The product is basically just the people that you're trying to scam. There was a bar that opened in the capital of my country that wouldn't charge you for the drinks, but for the time spent there. Obviously everyone's goal was to drink as much as possible in the least amount of time, so they had to shut down soon. See, what's weird is that an idea like this fails, but a very similar idea called a casino actually does very well. I guess it just works a little better when you get to manipulate people into them thinking that they're going to make money while being there. Someone in my neighborhood opened an artisan hot dog restaurant called Everyone's Frank about a decade ago. My dad and I went in once at about 6 p.m. on a Saturday. We were the only customers, so the owner, who was working the register, chatted us up. He talked about his plans to expand the business to about 15 locations, which was completely delusional. He also talked about how much he spent on the interior redesign, which was pointlessly fancy. The hot dogs cost $9 and tasted terrible. We never went back, and the place was bankrupt within 6 months. My dad always said they'd gone Frankrupt. I mean, what even is an artisan hot dog? I don't think people are really into going all out and paying a bunch for a fancy hot dog. One a-hole tried to exploit people's fears of the 9/11 attacks by marketing parachutes to businesses with offices and skyscrapers. There was nothing special about them, they were normal parachutes. He had a TV interview where he tried promoting how easy it was going to be to get into the harness. However, his assistant couldn't get into the harness. He chastised her for it on television. Even after he tried to help her, they couldn't get the harness to fit. I mean, I feel like it would be such a very oddly specific use to be able to use a parachute from the top of a building. For a lot of reasons. Like, for one, it's pretty hard to break open a lot of windows. For another, I don't know that parachutes really work when you're surrounded by high-rises. But it sounds like it went real well for him. In my country, there was a guy who used to sell wood. The problem was he did not have any of it. So he would ask for payment and then not give the product afterwards, hoping that procrastination and time will make the problem go away. He did 4 years in jail. I'm not even sure you could really call that a business. So my friend had an idea that she thought was brilliant. It was to take all tap water and bottle it in parts and sell it, and then use that money to pay for homeless necessities. Really good intention and kind gestured. However, in my country there are free fountains everywhere for drinking. So she spoke to our town's mayor and suggested that all of our water gets put into water bottles, and then we sell them besides the water fountains. The mayor destroyed it really quick with how it would create unnecessary waste. The amount of money you would have to spend on wages to have people standing near fountains 24/7. What if people have reusable water bottles? And why doesn't she find a way to collect money for existing homeless programs? A friend got pissed, still thinks her idea is brilliant. Well, she sounds like she's learned a lot from big corporations. If anytime you want to pull something off, just hit up the government and have them change the rules to benefit you. We have a small-time theme park in my state called Evermore, and they thought it'd be a good idea to try and sue Taylor Swift over her album of the same name. I think that people that try this stuff are expecting some sort of news media coverage of everyone saying like, oh, he's so crazy, he's going after the big dogs, and then they just get tons of publicity, and that's all they really want, but really it just crashes and burns and they don't go anywhere with it. Quibi. That, and something I saw on Shark Tank. These buttons you put on your nightstand so you can tell your spouse that you're in the mood for sex without risking rejection. Like, just talk to the person you married, maybe? It's funny they kind of just brush over Quibi. That was like some other streaming service. I don't remember what was so bad about it. But this whole idea of like pushing a button to let your spouse know that you're in the mood is kind of the most pathetic thing I've heard in at least the past hour. Like, approaching strangers can be scary sometimes, I know. But if you can't even approach your own spouse, there's probably something wrong there. There was a bar that opened up in my city, and their entrance was hidden. They did a news story, and they refused to tell the paper where it was actually located. To everyone's complete surprise, they only stayed open for a couple of weeks. See, that whole exclusive thing really only works if you are well known by a bunch of very rich people. If people are just walking down the street and they just see some unmarked door, I don't think most people are just gonna walk in. I had a customer once that wanted to build an auction website that would put eBay out of business. His hook was that he wanted to sell very niche, expensive items. To kick the whole thing off, he was going to sell Monica Lewinsky's jizz-stained dress. Out of all of the polite questions that emerged from the initial meeting, I finally got around to asking how we ended up with the infamous dress. "Oh, I don't own that. I was just going to take the final auction bid and offer that to Monica for the dress." "I see, and your budget for building said empire? Would $1,500 get me started?" "Oh man, watch out, eBay, he's coming for you." My dad has been in hundreds of pyramid schemes. When I was a kid, he would always describe how the pyramid worked, and I would help him with his meetings. It took me a long time to figure out his get-rich plans were really schemes. He still does them. Never been rich off them, though. One was Excel, a super cancer-beating fruit juice. You give me $5,000, then you get 5 people to give you $5,000, then they get their own people to give $5,000. See, maybe I'm just missing something, but I don't understand how anyone can even fall for a sales pitch like that. I don't see the benefit anywhere. Like, why would I buy into something like that? But anyways, that's all of our bad business decisions and stories. I feel like a lot of the story topics I have saved up right now are all about like work-related stuff, because I guess that's what people like telling stories about. So there's probably going to be a few more just like this. But that is all for today.